defended themselves with courage and honor. I vote to accept their terms. One by one, species voiced their support. The opposition grew smaller. Finally, after 3 hours of debate, Morvith called for the formal vote. All in favor of accepting Earth's conditional membership on the stated terms? The majority of the chamber glowed with affirmative signals. Not everyone agreed, but enough did. The motion passes, Morvith declared. Earth is hereby recognized as a full member of the Galactic Council with all rights and privileges therein. Ambassador Mina Park, you are officially recognized as Earth's representative. Cheers erupted from the human delegation. Mina felt tears on her face, but didn't bother to wipe them away. They had done it, but Morvith wasn't finished. He stood and approached the human delegation directly. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer formal apology for the treatment of humanity's ancestors. What was done to your people was born of desperation and fear, but that does not excuse it. You were used, discarded, and imprisoned. For that, we are sorry. We hope that going forward, we can build a relationship based on trust and mutual respect, rather than fear. Mina accepted with a nod. Apology acknowledged. Now let's work together to make sure nothing like that happens again to any species. Months later, Commander Day stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, preparing for another exploration mission. But this time, he wasn't alone. 3 alien ships would accompany him, part of a joint exploration effort that would map new regions of the galaxy Dr. Hana had stayed at. Earth to lead a research team studying the genetic enhancements. They were learning to understand and control them, ensuring they remain tools rather than becoming problems. Her latest report suggested that the enhancements could be adapted for medical purposes, potentially helping cure diseases. Captain J commanded a new ship, the Remembrance, named in honor of those who died at Mars. He led joint training exercises with alien species, teaching them human tactics while learning their strategies. The sharing of knowledge went both ways now. Ambassador Mina addressed the full Galactic Council for the first time as an official member. She stood at the central platform where Morvith usually presided, given the honor of opening the session. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, humanity brings greetings from Earth. We come to you not as warriors or weapons, but as partners. We acknowledge our capacity for violence, but we choose peace. We remember our past, but we're not bound by it. We're builders, dreamers, artists, and yes, when necessary, defenders. She paused, looking around at the hundreds of alien species watching her. Our species has a saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You tried to make us forget who we were, but that only made us grow in different directions. You feared what you created, but you should have trusted us instead. Now we're here, not as the warriors you remember, but as something new, something better. We're ready to take our place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as contributors. We're ready to learn from you and teach you in return. We're ready to help build a galaxy where no species has to fear being used and discarded the way our ancestors were. The question isn't whether humanity will change the galaxy. We already have. The question is what we'll build together. And I think if we work as true partners, we can build something amazing. As she finished speaking, the chamber filled with affirmative signals from every species present. Not everyone trusted humans completely, and that would take time to earn. But they were willing to try. War Prince Thexar, watching from a service corridor where he now worked under human supervision, felt something strange. It might have been respect. It might have been understanding. He had attacked Earth expecting easy conquest and found warriors who couldn't be conquered. But more importantly, he had found a species that chose mercy over vengeance. He would spend the next 100 years serving humanity. And perhaps, if he was lucky, He would learn what it meant to be more than a warrior. The humans had learned that lesson long ago above Earth. The planet that had been sealed away for 50,000 years now served as a hub for galactic trade and diplomacy. Human ships traveled freely to distant stars. Human culture spread across the galaxy. Human determination and adaptability became things to admire rather than fear. The galaxy had demanded to know how anyone dared attack Earth. Now they knew the answer. But more importantly, they knew what humanity chose to do with their power. They chose to build rather than destroy. They chose to forgive rather than seek revenge. They chose to be partners rather than rulers. And that choice changed everything. They explored every corner of the galaxy, looking for allies, for weapons, for anything that could help. And then they found Earth. The hologram changed to show a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Earth. But this was Earth 50,000. Years ago, when humans were just beginning to develop basic civilizations. Earth was home to a young species that had barely discovered agriculture, Morvith said. By all accounts, they should have been ignored. But our ancestors noticed something unusual about these humans. They fought constantly among themselves, but they never gave up. No matter how badly they were defeated, they always came back. They adapted to any threat. They learned from every loss. They turned every disadvantage into a weapon. Mina listened with growing shock as Morvith described how the ancient council had secretly recruited humans from Earth. They had enhanced human genetics, improved their physical capabilities, taught them to use advanced technology. They had created an army of human warriors and sent them against the progenitors. The humans won, Morvith said quietly. They did what no other species could do. They destroyed the progenitor war machines. They ended a war that had killed half the galaxy. They saved us all. Then why don't we celebrate them? Someone asked. Why is Earth sealed behind a quarantine? Morvath's expression darkened. Because we became afraid of what we had created. The humans didn't just win battles. They perfected warfare. They developed tactics we had never imagined. They showed a capacity for violence and determination that terrified us. We realized that if humans ever turned against us, we might not survive. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. So our ancestors made a choice, Morvith continued. They returned the humans to Earth. They erased the memories of the war. They removed the genetic enhancements, or so they thought. And they sealed Earth behind the strongest quarantine in galactic history. The plan was to leave humanity alone for 100,000 years, hoping they would evolve past their violent nature. But it's only been 50,000 years, the red-scaled alien said. Exactly, Morvith replied. And despite the memory wipes, despite removing the enhancements, humanity developed spaceflight on their own. They reached for the stars anyway. They were never supposed to advance this quickly. Mina couldn't stay quiet anymore. So you used us. You turned our ancestors into weapons. Then you threw us away like broken tools. You imprisoned us on our own planet and didn't even tell us why. Every eye in the chamber turned to her. Morvith looked at her with something like shame. Ambassador Park, you're correct. What our ancestors did was wrong. But you must understand, they were desperate. And afterward, they were afraid. Afraid of us? Mina said. We've spent the last year trying to join your council peacefully. We've shared our culture, our art, our science. We've done everything you asked. And you kept us waiting because you're afraid of something that happened 50,000 years ago? Before Morvith could answer, the hologram flashed red. New data was coming in from the Sol system. The Kravik fleet had begun its attack. Aboard the horizon's edge, they watched in horror as the Kravik ships opened fire on Mars. The human outpost there, home to 200 scientists and support staff, had no weapons and no shields. The alien attack lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, The outpost was gone, vaporized. 153 more people had died, in addition to the first 47. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Kravik flagship," the communications officer said. "They're broadcasting it to Earth." "Let me hear it," Day ordered. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, translated by their computer. "Attention, primitive humans. I am War Prince Vixar of the Kravik Empire. You are now subjects of the Empire. You will surrender all military forces immediately. You will provide us with resources and labor. You will submit or you will die. You have 1 hour to respond." Day felt rage building in his chest. He had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years, had commanded ships in small conflicts between human nations, but nothing had prepared him for this. An alien empire was demanding Earth's surrender after murdering 200 people without warning. "Open a channel," he ordered. "Broadcast to the Kravik fleet and to Earth." "Channel open, sir." Day took a deep breath. "This is Commander Day Quan of the Earthship Horizon's Edge to the Kravik fleet. You have attacked our people without provocation. You have murdered innocent civilians. Earth does not negotiate with murderers. Our answer to your demands is no, not now, not ever." He closed the channel and turned to his crew. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. "Get me a tactical analysis of their fleet. Find their weaknesses. I know we're just one small research ship, but we're going to do everything we can to help Earth. Understood?" "Yes, sir," they replied in unison. In the council chamber, Morvith watched the exchange with growing dread. He had seen this before, 50,000 years ago. He knew what was coming. "Send the defense fleet," he ordered. "Full speed. But I fear we will arrive too late." "Too late to save Earth?" someone asked. "No," Morvith said quietly. "Too late to save the Kravik." Earth's response came faster than anyone expected. Within 30 minutes of the Kravik ultimatum, every military ship in the solar system received emergency orders. 50 vessels of various sizes began moving toward defensive positions around Earth. There were destroyers, frigates, and converted cargo haulers that had been fitted with whatever weapons humanity could mount on them. Even 3 orbital defense stations detached from their positions and joined the formation. Captain J. Lim commanded. The destroyer Indomitable, one of Earth's newest warships. He stood on his bridge, watching the Kravik fleet approach. The alien ships were massive compared to human vessels. Their technology was clearly superior. Their numbers were overwhelming. "Sir, tactical analysis is complete," his weapons officer reported. "It's not good. Their shields can absorb anything we can throw at them. Their weapons outrange ours by a factor of 10. If we engage directly, we'll be destroyed in minutes." Jay nodded slowly. He had fought in 3 wars between human nations and had never lost a ship under his command. But those had been human opponents with human technology. This was different. "Relay this to all ships," he said. "We're not trying to win. We're trying to buy time for evacuations. Every minute we keep them busy is another few thousand civilians who get to shelter. Fight smart. Fight dirty. Make them work for every meter." The human fleet formed a defensive line between the Kravik Armada and Earth. It looked pitiful, like children with toys facing professional soldiers. The Kravik fleet didn't even slow down. War Prince Thexar sat on his command throne aboard the flagship Eternal Conquest. He watched the human ships position themselves and laughed. His military advisors had told him humans were weak, that their technology was primitive, that this would be an easy conquest. "They dare to resist?" Thexar said. "Very well, open fire. Destroy them all." The Kravik fleet unleashed a devastating barrage. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the 2 forces. Human ships exploded one after another as the alien weapons tore through their armor like paper. The destroyer Swift Justice lasted 8 seconds before a Kravik beam sliced it in half. The frigate Morning Star managed to fire 3 missiles before it was vaporized. The converted cargo ship Hope's Dream, crewed by volunteers with minimal military training, exploded so quickly that no one aboard had time to understand what happened. Within 5 minutes, half the human fleet was gone. But something strange was happening aboard the surviving ships. Crew members began experiencing odd sensations. Captains suddenly knew tactical maneuvers they had never learned. Engineers understood how to modify their equipment in ways that shouldn't be possible. Weapons officers aimed at seemingly random points on enemy ships and scored impossible hits. Aboard the Indomitable, Jay felt it too. Knowledge flooding into his mind that wasn't his own. Instincts awakening that felt ancient and powerful. Hard to port. He shouted, "All power to forward shields. Fire missiles at coordinates." He rattled off numbers that came to him from nowhere. Now. His crew obeyed instantly, even though the maneuver seemed suicidal. The Indomitable dove toward 3 Kravik warships, so close that their shields nearly touched. At the last second, Jay's missile struck a precise point where the shield frequencies of all 3 ships overlapped. The shields collapsed. For exactly 2 seconds, all 3 Kravik ships were vulnerable. "All weapons, fire everything," Jay ordered. The Indomitable's cannons, missiles, and beam weapons all fired simultaneously. The 3 Kravik ships, designed to withstand any single attack, couldn't handle the sudden overwhelming assault on their unshielded hulls. They exploded in brilliant fireballs. Across the battlefield, other human captains were experiencing the same awakening. They began executing tactics that shouldn't work, but somehow did. They aimed at vulnerabilities they shouldn't know about. They coordinated attacks with split-second timing that required no communication. On the horizon's edge, Hana felt the change most intensely. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but her hands were moving across her console with absolute certainty. She was reprogramming the ship's scientific equipment, turning research tools into weapons. "Commander, I can create a gravitational pulse weapon," she said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, confident in a way she had never felt before. "I don't know how I know this, but I know it will work." They felt the same strange certainty. "Do it." Hana's fingers flew across the controls. She was building a weapon that human science said was impossible, but her hands remembered how to do it from 50,000 years ago. The ship's gravitational sensors, designed to map star systems, became a focused beam that could tear apart molecular bonds. Firing, Hana said, got an invisible wave of gravitational force lanced out from the horizon's edge. It struck a Kravik cruiser, and the ship simply came apart. Metal twisted. Hull plates separated. The entire vessel broke into pieces like a toy pulled apart by invisible hands. Aboard the Kravik flagship, Dexar was no longer laughing. His fleet had destroyed half the human ships, but the remaining vessels were fighting like demons. They were using tactics he had only read about in ancient military texts, maneuvers from wars fought before his species even reached the stars. How are they doing this? He demanded. They're primitive. They should be running away. His tactical officer's voice shook. "War Prince, I've analyzed their combat patterns. They match descriptions from the progenitor war. Sir, I think these might be ... them." "That's impossible," Exar said. "The Deathworld warriors are a myth. A legend used to frighten young soldiers." "Then how do you explain this?" Vexar had no answer. His fleet was still winning by numbers, but they were paying a terrible price. 20 Kravik ships destroyed, 30 more damaged. Against an enemy that should have been swept aside in minutes, the battle continued for another hour. The human fleet was down to 12 operational ships. The Kravik fleet had lost 47 vessels. By any measure, the Kravik were still winning. But they were no longer advancing on Earth. They had stopped to regroup. Shocked by the ferocity of the human resistance, Captain J watched his tactical display and knew the end was coming. The Indomitable had taken heavy damage. Half his crew was dead or injured. His weapons were nearly exhausted. But he was still fighting, and so were the 11 other human ships still operational. "Sir, the Kravik are forming up for another attack," his tactical officer reported. "This time they're concentrating all their firepower. They're going to overwhelm us." Jay nodded. He felt strangely calm. "Then we make this count. All ships, final attack formation. We're going to ram their flagship." It was a suicide mission, but Jay felt absolutely certain it was the right move. His hands knew how to pilot the ship through the enemy formation. His instincts told him exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. "All crew to escape pods," he ordered. "That's a command. I'll pilot the ship myself." His crew refused. "Sir, if you're staying, we're staying." Before Jay could argue, something incredible happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. Massive ships began appearing all around the battlefield, thousands of them. They were unlike anything the humans or Kravik had ever seen, built in styles ranging from elegant to terrifying. The Galactic Council fleet had arrived. A voice boomed across every communication channel, translated into every language. It was Speaker Morvith, and his tone carried absolute authority. "This is the Galactic Council. All vessels will cease fire immediately. The Kravik Empire has violated the first law. War Prince Vexar, you are under arrest for attacking the Death World. Your fleet will surrender or be destroyed." The Kravik fleet stopped moving. Their ships went silent, weapons powering down. The human ships, battered and bleeding, but still fighting, also halted their attacks. Vexar sat on his command throne in shock. "Death World?" he whispered. "But that's just a story." "No," Morveth's voice replied, clearly addressing Vexar directly. "It was never a story. And you just woke them up." The Galactic Council flagship was larger than a city. Commander Day Quan stood in a small shuttlecraft approaching its main hangar. Accompanied by Dr. Hana Yoon and Captain J. Lim, they had been ordered to attend an emergency council session. Though no one had explained why, the three of them sat in silence, still processing what had happened during the battle. They had fought beyond their capabilities, known things they shouldn't know, executed tactics that came from nowhere. Even now, Day could feel that knowledge settling in his mind like memories returning after a long sleep. "Did any of you feel it?" Hannah finally asked. "During the battle, it was like someone else was moving my hands." "Not someone else," Jay said quietly. "It felt like us. Like we were remembering something we had forgotten." Day nodded. "The Council knows what happened to us. That's why they're scared." The shuttle landed in a hangar that could have held 1,000 ships. Alien soldiers in ornate armor escorted them through corridors filled with species from across the galaxy. Some aliens stared at the humans with fear. Others watched with curiosity or respect. They entered the council chamber where Ambassador Mina Park was already waiting. She ran to embrace Day, relief clear on her face. "Thank God you're alive," she said. "I've been watching the battle feeds. What you did out there, how is it possible?" "We don't know," Day replied. "But I think we're about to find out." War Prince Vexar was already in the chamber, bound in energy restraints and surrounded by guards. He looked smaller now, his earlier arrogance replaced by fear. When he saw the human officers enter, his eyes went wide. "You," he whispered. "You're the Death World warriors. The legends are real." Speaker Morveth stood at the center of the chamber. His three eyes were fixed on the humans as they approached. Around them, hundreds of alien species watched from floating platforms. Commander Day Kwan, Dr. Hana Yoon, Captain J. Lim, Morvith said formally. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you, though I wish our meeting was under better circumstances. You owe us explanations, Day said bluntly. People died today. Hundreds of people. And something happened to us during that battle. We want to know what. Morvith gestured to the holographic display. It showed images from 50,000 years ago, the Progenitor War, and humanity's role in ending it. Everything I am about to tell you is true, Morvith began. 50,000 years ago, our ancestors fought a war that nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy. They were losing. In desperation, they found your world and recruited your ancestors. They enhanced human genetics, trained you in advanced warfare, and sent you against an enemy that had defeated everyone else. They watched the images of ancient humans in powered armor, leading charges against impossible odds. Saw them develop tactics that turned certain defeat into victory. Watched them fight with a determination that terrified their allies as much as their enemies. Your ancestors saved the galaxy, Morveth continued. But afterward, our ancestors became afraid. Humans had proven too good at warfare, so they made a terrible choice. They returned you to Earth, erased your memories, and attempted to remove the genetic enhancements. Then they sealed your world behind a quarantine meant to last 100,000 years. But the enhancements didn't disappear, Hana said, understanding dawning. They went dormant. Correct, Morvith replied. And when the Kravik attacked, when your species faced extinction, those enhancements reactivated. You remembered how to fight because that knowledge was always inside you, buried in your DNA. Jay stepped forward, anger clear on his face. You used us, made us into weapons. Then you locked us away and hoped we would forget. You had no right. You're correct, Morvith said. What our ancestors did was wrong. They should have trusted you to be partners instead of treating you as tools to be used and discarded. Dexar made a strangled sound. If you knew what they were, why did you hide them? If they're so dangerous, why did you leave them unprotected? Morveth turned to face the Kravik prince. Because hiding them was wrong. Because fear is not wisdom. And because you, War Prince Dexar, have just demonstrated why the first law exists. You attacked a world you knew nothing about. You murdered innocent people without provocation. You assumed might gave you rights. They're primitive. Dexar protested. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. And yet you lost 47 ships to their 12, Morvith said coldly. You lost because you underestimated them. Because you thought weapons and technology were all that mattered. The humans taught us 50,000 years ago that determination and adaptability are more powerful than any weapon. Morvith turned back to the humans. War Prince Dexar will face judgment for his crimes. The Kravik Empire will pay reparations for the Mars outposts and the lives lost. But there is a larger question that must be answered. What happens now with Earth? Mina spoke up. What do you mean? Earth can no longer remain in quarantine, Morvith explained. The seal is broken. Humanity has proven capable of space travel and has been attacked by a galactic power. We must decide how Earth fits into the larger universe. That's not your decision to make, Day said firmly. It's ours. The chamber erupted in surprised murmurs. Morvith raised a hand for silence. Explain, Commander. For 50,000 years, you made decisions about humanity without asking us. You decided to use us, then to imprison us, then to ignore us. No more. If Earth is going to join the galactic community, it will be as equals, not as subjects or children to be protected. A red-scaled alien flew down from one of the platforms. You dare speak this way to the Council? You're a single species that barely knows how to travel between stars. A single species that just fought off an invasion fleet, Jay said calmly. A species that saved your ancestors 50,000 years ago. A species that, apparently, you're all afraid of. That fear means you'll negotiate with us fairly, or you'll leave us alone. Hana added, we're not asking to rule the galaxy. We're not threatening anyone. We just want the same respect and freedom you give every other species. Is that really so much to ask? Morvith studied the four humans carefully. He saw the determination in their eyes, the absolute refusal to back down. He had seen that look before in ancient records of the Progenitor War. You are correct, he said finally. We have no right to decide your fate without your input. I propose this. Earth sends representatives to negotiate terms for joining the Galactic Council. Not as junior members to be guided and protected, but as full equals. You will have the same rights and responsibilities as any other species. And the enhancements? Hana asked. What about what's been reactivated in us? That is for humanity to decide, Morvith replied. We can offer research and assistance, but we will not try to remove or suppress them again. That failed once and only created this situation. Mina looked at her fellow humans. We need to consult with Earth's governments. This isn't a decision four people can make. Agreed, Morvith said. Take whatever time you need. The Council can wait. We've already waited 50,000 years. A few more months won't matter. Dexar, still bound and surrounded by guards, spoke up one more time. What about my fleet, my people? Morvath's expression hardened. Your fleet will be escorted back to Kravik space, where you will face trial. The Kravik Empire has violated the highest law in the galaxy. There will be consequences. I didn't know. Dexar protested. How could I know? Ignorance is not innocence, Captain J said, walking over to face the prince. You attacked without understanding who we were. You murdered 200 people as a demonstration of power. You demanded our surrender without even attempting communication. Those choices were yours, and you will answer for them. Dexar shrank back from Jay's gaze. For all his size and technology, the Kravik prince looked small and defeated. The council session ended shortly after. As the humans were escorted back to their shuttle, they noticed something. The other species in the corridors no longer looked at them with fear. There was something else in their eyes now. Respect, recognition, perhaps even hope. We're not weapons, Hana said quietly as they walked. We're more than what they made us to be. We always were, Mina replied. They just forgot. Now they have to remember, and so do we. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Sol. The Galactic Council chamber was filled to capacity with representatives from every member species. Today would determine not just Earth's future, but potentially the structure of galactic civilization itself. Ambassador Mina Park stood at the central platform, flanked by delegations from every major Earth nation. Behind her were Commander Day Kwan, Dr. Hana Yoon, and Captain J Lim, representing the military forces that had defended Earth. The weight of humanity's future rested on what happened in this chamber. Speaker Morvith called the session to order. We gather today to determine Earth's place in the galactic community. But first, we must conclude the matter of the Kravik Empire. War Prince Dexar was brought forward, still in restraints. He looked broken, nothing like the arrogant commander who had attacked Earth. Behind him, holographic displays showed the evidence against him. The unprovoked attack, the destroyed outposts, the 200 human lives lost. War Prince Dexar, Morvith said formally, you have been found guilty of violating the first law by attacking the protected world. You have been found guilty of war crimes against a sentient species. How do you plead? Dexar's voice was barely a whisper. Guilty. I plead guilty to all charges. Murmurs spread through the chamber. It was rare for a Kravik to admit guilt. Their culture valued strength and pride above all else. Why did you do it? Captain J asked, stepping forward. I need to understand. We had never met before. We had done nothing to your people. Why attack us? Dexar looked at the human captain with something like shame. Because you seemed weak. Your broadcast showed violence and conflict, but your technology was primitive. I thought you would be easy to conquer. I thought crushing you would bring honor to my house and expand the Empire's borders. 200 people died for your honor, Jay said coldly. I know, Dexar replied, and I will carry that weight until I die. I understand now what you are. I understand why the Council protected you. I attacked the descendants of the warriors who saved the galaxy, and I did it out of arrogance and stupidity. Morvith announced the sentence. The Kravik Empire will cede 3 border systems to neutral territory. They will pay reparations to Earth for the lives lost and the destruction caused. War Prince Dexar will be stripped of rank and title. He and the surviving crew of his fleet will serve Earth in whatever capacity humanity demands for 3 generations. 3 generations? Dexar looked stunned. That's 100 years for my species. You murdered 200 innocent people, Mina said. Did you think there would be no price? What would you have me do? Mina thought for a moment. Help us understand the galaxy. Teach us about the species and cultures we'll be dealing with. Warn others about what happens when they assume might makes right. Maybe if you spend the next 100 years serving instead of conquering, you'll understand why what you did was wrong. Dexar bowed his head. As you command, Ambassador. With the Kravik matter settled, attention turned to Earth's petition for Council membership. The debate had raged for months in preliminary sessions. Some species argued that humans were too dangerous, that their warrior nature made them unfit for civilized society. Others contended that Earth deserved recognition for defending itself so effectively. A blue-skinned delegate from the Torvin Federation stood. I oppose Earth's membership. We all saw what happened during the battle. Humans fought with tactics from the Progenitor War. They used knowledge they shouldn't possess. They're too unpredictable, too violent. Dr. Hannah Jung stepped forward to respond. You're right that we're unpredictable. We surprised ourselves during that battle. But you're wrong about violence being our nature. Yes, we can fight when we must. Yes, we remember how to wage war. But that's not all we are. She activated a holographic display showing Earth's achievements. Art, music, literature, scientific discoveries, humanitarian efforts, environmental restoration projects. We're a species that creates beauty alongside weapons, Hannah continued. We write poetry and build hospitals. We explore space not to conquer, but to understand. We're not just the warriors from 50,000 years ago. We're more than that because we chose to be. A delegate from the crystalline shaper species spoke next. But can you control what you've reawakened? The genetic enhancements from the Progenitor War are active again. What if they change you? What if you become what we feared? We've been studying that, Hannah replied. The enhancements aren't controlling us. They're tools that activate under extreme stress, enhancing our natural abilities. But we're still us. We still make our own choices. During the battle, we could have pursued the fleeing Kravik ships and destroyed them all. We chose not to. That's not the action of mindless warriors. Commander Day spoke next. Some of you think we're dangerous. Maybe we are. But ask yourselves this. What happens if you reject us? Do you think we'll just forget everything we've learned? Do you think we'll accept being sealed away again? We're part of the galaxy, now whether you like it or not. The question isn't whether we're dangerous. It's whether you want us as partners or as strangers. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Speaker Morvith called for order. We have heard all arguments, he said. Now humanity must tell us what they want. Ambassador Park, what does Earth request? Mina took a deep breath. This was the moment everything had been building toward. Earth requests conditional membership in the Galactic Council, she began. We will join as full equals with all rights and responsibilities of membership. However, we insist on certain terms. She outlined Earth's conditions: maintaining independent military forces, controlling human-inhabited space without Council interference, the right to establish their own alliances, and full participation in Council decisions without being subject to species-based restrictions. Furthermore, Mina continued, we request that the Council formally apologize for the treatment of our ancestors. You used humans as weapons, then imprisoned us for 50,000 years because you were afraid. That was wrong, and it needs to be acknowledged. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species thought Earth's demands were too aggressive. Others felt humans were being reasonable. Morvith raised his hands for silence. Humanity's terms are acceptable to me. Are there any species who wish to formally object? The Torvin delegate stood again. This sets a dangerous precedent. No species has ever negotiated council membership on their own terms. Perhaps that's been the problem, said an elderly delegate from the Wisdom Keeper species. We've always demanded that new species conform to our expectations. Maybe it's time we showed some flexibility. Humans saved our ancestors once. They defended themselves with courage and honor. I vote to accept their terms. One by one, species voiced their support. The opposition grew smaller. Finally, after 3 hours of debate, Morvith called for the formal vote. All in favor of accepting Earth's conditional membership on the stated terms? The majority of the chamber glowed with affirmative signals. Not everyone agreed, but enough did. The motion passes, Morvith declared. Earth is hereby recognized as a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges therein. Ambassador Mina Park, you are officially recognized as Earth's representative. Cheers erupted from the human delegation. Mina felt tears on her face, but didn't bother to wipe them away. They had done it, but Morvith wasn't finished. He stood and approached the human delegation directly. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer formal apology for the treatment of humanity's ancestors. What was done to your people was born of desperation and fear, but that does not excuse it. You were used, discarded, and imprisoned. For that, we are sorry. We hope that going forward, we can build a relationship based on trust and mutual respect rather than fear. Mina accepted with a nod. Apology acknowledged. Now let's work together to make sure nothing like that happens again to any species. Months later, Commander Day stood on the bridge at the horizon's edge, preparing for another exploration mission. But this time, he wasn't alone. 3 alien ships would accompany him, part of a joint exploration effort that would map new regions of the galaxy. Dr. Hannah had stayed at Earth to lead a research team studying the genetic enhancements. They were learning to understand and control them, ensuring they remain tools rather than becoming problems. Her latest report suggested that the enhancements could be adapted for medical purposes, potentially helping cure diseases. Captain J commanded a new ship, the Remembrance, named in honor of those who died at Mars. He led joint training exercises with alien species, teaching them human tactics while learning their strategies. The sharing of knowledge went both ways now. Ambassador, Mina addressed the full Galactic Council for the first time as an official member. She stood at the central platform where Morvith usually presided, given the honor of opening the session. Members of the Galactic Council, she began, humanity brings greetings from Earth. We come to you not as warriors or weapons, but as partners. We acknowledge our capacity for violence, but we choose peace. We remember our past, but we're not bound by it. We're builders, dreamers, artists. And yes, when necessary, defenders. She paused, looking around at the hundreds of alien species watching her. Our species has a saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." You tried to make us forget who we were, but that only made us grow in different directions. You feared what you created, but you should have trusted us instead. Now we're here, not as the warriors you remember, but as something new, something better. We're ready to take our place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as contributors. We're ready to learn from you and teach you in return. We're ready to help build a galaxy where no species has to fear being used and discarded the way our ancestors were. The question isn't whether humanity will change the galaxy. We already have. The question is what we'll build together. And I think if we work as true partners, we can build something amazing. As she finished speaking, the chamber filled with affirmative signals from every species present. Not everyone trusted humans completely, and that would take time to earn. But they were willing to try. War Prince Thexar, watching from a service corridor where he now worked under human supervision, felt something strange. It might have been respect. It might have been understanding. He had attacked Earth expecting easy conquest and found warriors who couldn't be conquered. But more importantly, he had found a species that chose mercy over vengeance. He would spend the next 100 years serving humanity. And perhaps, if he was lucky, he would learn what it meant to be more than a warrior. The humans had learned that lesson long ago out above Earth. The planet that had been sealed away for 50,000 years now served as a hub for galactic trade and diplomacy. Human ships traveled freely to distant stars. Human culture spread across the galaxy. Human determination and adaptability became things to admire rather than fear. The galaxy had demanded to know how anyone dared attack Earth. Now they knew the answer. But more importantly, they knew what humanity chose to do with their power. They chose to build rather than destroy. They chose to forgive rather than seek revenge. They chose to be partners rather than rulers. And that choice changed everything.